Welcome to the Four Visions Market Podcast, a space built on the principles of integrity and reciprocity. Together, we will engage in thought-provoking conversations about plant medicines, why these plants are coming out of the rainforests, jungles, and mountains after thousands of years, and what it means to be in right relationship with the ancestral wisdom cultures and guardians of these traditions. I'm your host, Mariah Ganessa, founder and director of Four Visions Market. This podcast is the natural evolution in our commitment to providing you, our tribe, with incredible resources to support you on your healing journey through plant medicines. Welcome home. Hey, Four Visions tribe, welcome back. We are stoked to bring you episode 3 this week with the one and only Nessi Gomes. Nessi is a world-renowned musician, and if you are not already familiar with her name, you've probably heard her music before, as it's a staple across medicine communities and plant ceremonies all around the world. Nessi was born on the tiny island of Guernsey in the UK, and singing and music became her way of dealing with challenging life circumstances. From a young age, she discovered the ability to transform discomfort and unspoken emotions by exploring sound, and has continued to root herself more and more in the therapeutic value of sonic expression. In the past 4 years, Nessi has shared her music and voice retreats in over 25 countries. In October 2016, she released her debut album, Diamonds and Demons, and received Best of British Unsigned Female Artist for that year. Nessi is pure heart and humility, and shares with us about her journey to awaken her voice and musical offerings from such a raw and vulnerable place. Wow, this episode is truly such a gift. There are so many beautiful threads of wisdom that Nessi shares about her own journey, how she called upon music and poetry to carry her through her darkest moments. She speaks of the human experience and overcoming separation in such a relatable way that whether or not you are a musician, I know there will be many gems you will receive from today's show. Nessi also blesses us up at the end with a live rendition of her hit song, We Are All Related, and it is amazing. So thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy this super special conversation. Welcome, Nessi. Thank you so much for joining us and coming on to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you and to get to share this conversation with our listeners today.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a great pleasure to get to speak with you, just because I know I am a dear fan of your music, and I know so many of our listeners have been greatly touched by your music and their own healing journey and in their spiritual journey and their ceremonies. And so I think this conversation will be really potent and beautiful and give people a little bit more context too about the nature of the healing capacity of sound and music. And so I would love to start off the conversation on that note, asking you to share a little bit first with how music and sound has been a part of your spiritual journey and how you have utilized it to alchemize and transform within your own evolution and healing.
Oh, thank you. What a beautiful opportunity to share. Thank you for the question. I guess, this has been my path for many years, probably from the age of 14, 15. I never had any kind of musical background in the sense that I couldn't read music and I wasn't part of any, even at school, it wasn't something that I took seriously, but I kind of stumbled across, music. It was also a time of the year, it was in the 80s. It wasn't when, thankfully, we weren't kind of bombarded with social media and all those kind of things. So it was quite common in those days that at that age, 14, 15, whatever, friends would hang out in the garage at the weekend and make music together and that kind of thing. But for me, I guess my journey started through my own kind of challenges in life. In my earlier years, I felt it wasn't an easy time for me. It was a very difficult time of my life. And it was through that kind of adversity of mental health challenges and, growing up in a family as well, where we didn't really speak about how we felt or our struggles. Everything was often kind of swept under the carpet. So I started writing poetry, actually. That was my first port of call. I was just writing so much, lots of poetry, and just getting everything that I felt onto a piece of paper. And, I remember it felt almost religious at that point. I was just addicted to writing. And thank God I was, I'm very grateful that I had that avenue to express myself, because like I said, it wasn't something that we did in the family. We didn't really share, our struggles, and it was often it felt like a taboo to kind of bring up anything that was difficult. So yes, poetry became my kind of port, like my bridge. And I was doing that for some time, and I was spending some time with friends who were kind of playing around with music a lot at that time. And it was just by a whim, really. Like, a friend of mine was like, hey, maybe you feel like singing some of your poetry on top of our songs. And I was like, well, I don't really sing, but I'll give it a go. And I just started improvising on top of my friend's kind of piano melody. And I just remember that moment, that first moment of connecting to my voice in that way, and how, it's not that I particularly sang, and, I didn't have the skills that I have now. And, it didn't bother me so much, because what was really taking me more was how it made me feel. And it felt like electricity in my whole body. And, for quite a few years, I felt very disassociated from my life. And I was suffering a lot with depression, and I was on medication as a teenager, and I was self-harming. I was really in a troubled space. And I remember that singing, actually, for me, was my savior. Music really pulled me out of the darkest places. And, even with seeing a therapist for months, and of course, like, being able to share your story with somebody has value, but often I would leave those sessions kind of, you're just regurgitating this narrative and this story about your life. And I would leave that session feeling very vulnerable and sensitive. And it's almost like kind of stirring up the mud at the bottom of a pond. And one of the gifts that I really received for myself, or one thing that I really took from using singing, at that time it was all improvisation, because I couldn't read music. I was really just intuitively allowing the words to kind of like flow through me melodically. And also, there were many moments where, I would be improvising on a piano. My auntie had a piano in her home that was always covered in ornaments. And I was always like, whenever I would go there, I'd take all the ornaments off the piano and start kind of playing around with little melodies and improvising, not even with words, just with sound. And I think what I took from that from a very young age was I didn't need to necessarily repeat this narrative, which I would do in therapy sessions. I could literally be with the emotion that was present in that moment of time and give it a sound. And I noticed how much lighter I would feel at the end of a half an hour, session with myself. And it really contributed hugely to my healing journey. And I guess, ever since that age, especially after a couple of attempts of trying to end my own life, which thankfully never materialized, that really contributed to my healing. So yeah, that was really my starting point with music and sound. It wasn't that I wanted to become a singer. It wasn't my agenda. It just made me feel better. It helped my mental health. It helped my spirit come back to my body, when so many of those earlier years I've just felt so lost and in a very dark place. And singing, it was almost like, when I sang, it was almost like I was kind of calling back all these fragmented parts of myself back to the center of my being. And this was really, this was the beginning of my journey, and with music and sound. And it was some years later, of course, I then, this became, I was so passionate about it. I learned the guitar, and, I was in bands for some years, and I loved it. It was like a real hobby for me. But then after some years of kind of exploring my voice and working with music and kind of, experimenting in different realms of music, I came across a course around about the age of 24 of music therapy. And this really intrigued me, because this was really my starting point with music. It was, like I said, it wasn't about entertaining. Of course I did that for some time, but I was really interested mostly in the healing qualities of music, and how music and voice and sound, how that contributes massively to, community, to, I think in education, I don't know what it's like in the States or anywhere else, but I know that the arts are kind of undermined quite often. Like, we don't really value the importance of the arts. It's because they give so much. They give so much to people's lives. And so I worked in music, I was training in music therapy for 3 years, and working with individuals with behavioral problems and challenges, working with people with physical disabilities, and using music as a tool for connection. And then I did that for some years, and then of course I met the medicine, and this gave me another angle to, the healing quality of sound, and really feeling that massively through ceremony. And then what was really calling me from that point on, when I left Pachamama, for example, I lived in Pachamama for 3 years. I was very curious about voice therapy, because this was my instrument. Yes, I could play guitar, but the guitar was never really my main story. I just learned the guitar in order to accompany my voice. And I was always really like, even when I finished my degree, I was like, I received so much goodness from that course, but I was like, I don't know, like, there's still something. And I remember this woman came in to give a class with the voice, and it was amazing. It was the most incredible thing I'd experienced. And that was like 20 years ago. And I was like, I want to do voice therapy. I want to do something specifically around the voice. And I couldn't find anything when I finished my degree. So I let go of it. And then, I traveled South America. And like I kind of touched on briefly, I was, introduced to the medicine. So this was kind of another branch on my tree that was kind of connected to my path. And then, then I found a course specifically on voice therapy. And it's kind of an ongoing journey, and, just very fascinated about the human voice and what it offers us. And when I've been in ceremony and I hear all the hikaros, and it's so fascinating. And it's, and it's nothing new either. This work is so ancient, the kind of the path of the medicine of sound and music and voice. It's before there was word, there was sound. You know what I mean? It's like, it's really ancient. It's nothing new.
I love it. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much. You just touched on so many incredible parts that I would love to deepen with you. And, I'd love to talk a little bit more about this element of how we utilize it to transmute, because you share how that was a big element in your journey, that sound and music came to you at a point where the therapy you were receiving wasn't completing the process, right? And so this is something that has been so mysterious and so magical to me in my own journey with music. And I think that it's something worth going a little deeper into. So I would love to hear your thoughts. You work with many people to open and awaken their voice, as well as, in the past, your work with the sound therapy and the music therapy. So I'm curious if you could expand a little bit more on what this process allows people to do. You mentioned at the beginning that you didn't identify as a singer, you didn't sing before, right? And I think a lot of us have that. A lot of us think that we can't sing, or many of us actually even have an impact or a trauma or a story from their past, a moment, a memory that we can recall being told that we can't sing, right? So how can sound be accessible, and how can the practice of awakening and connecting with the voice be utilized for everyone? And do you see it as a tool for all beings to deepen and to transmute and catalyze energy?
Absolutely. One thing I can say, just because of my own journey, is that every individual on this planet has access to their voice. I often think about it in the sense that it's not just for speaking. We weren't just given this tool for just using our words, but for healing. I really believe that. And it's the same with our hands, how we can use our hands to create beautiful things and feel connected to the earth. But yes, with the voice, I think the thing about our voice, it's the most intimate tool that we carry. And if I can be bold enough to say that, if anything, I think it's more vulnerable to express our voice than it is to move our body. And, maybe some people would disagree with that. And I think, from my own experience and from working with, thousands of individuals over the last kind of 8-9 years, people come for all different reasons, or they come with an intention like, I want to improve my voice. I want to become a better singer. And I've seen that so many times. And the process that I create for individuals to step into is actually, we don't come learning how to sing. We come to sing so that we can learn. It gives so many insights. It's an opportunity for deepening our relationship with ourselves, how we communicate who we are in the world. Like I said earlier, for me, when I was younger, I didn't really grow up in an environment where I could speak my truth. That just wasn't the kind of environment. And I was also Portuguese family, also has a very different kind of upbringing. As a woman, I think, of course men go through it also, probably in a different way, but I would also say that women experience, this repression or suppression around their expression more so. And I know it from my own journey, and I say this with love towards my family, because whenever I share about this, I never want to come across disrespectful to my family. And it's just acknowledging, they had only the tools what they had. They didn't, it was all about survival in the 80s. It wasn't about, I'm going to go on an ayahuasca retreat and find myself, or, they didn't have that. It was all about just, survival, coming from a very poor background. And they had just the tools that they had. So I don't say it with any judgment, but, growing up on a very small English island to a Portuguese family was really challenging. And there were I noticed at a young age that I had different rules, to other friends of mine. Like my dad was super overprotective. And as a girl, I felt more restricted in expressing myself the way I wanted to. So that was huge, that was a huge impact for me. But I've broken through a lot of those layers. And I think also that's what the voice work has given me, the kind of this path has given me. It's given me confidence. It's really helped me to speak my truth with humility as well, like, so when I'm working with individuals, everybody comes with very different needs and experiences, and some people are literally just coming because they want to improve their voice. However, this is not my forte. I make it very clear, that I'm not, these kind of containers is not about improving our voice. It's not about fixing our voice. It's about being with this energy and being with the sound as it is, because it gives so much information. Our voices hold so much information about who we are as individuals, and I know that from my own journey, how, just listening to a recording of my voice from 5 years ago, and since then I've become a mother, and seeing how motherhood has influenced the kind of shape of my voice. And that's just like one aspect. But I think also, we come from a society, especially in Western society, where we are drilled from a young age, that music is for the elite, music is for the talented, music is for, and that goes for singing. And it's kind of been taken away from the community. I think it's slowly coming back, and I see that really strongly happening through the medicine as well. I've met so many people that have sat in ceremony and they're like, wow, I just feel reconnected to my music, and I started learning violin again, or because they're coming at it from a different angle. It's not about entertaining, it's about prayer, it's about connection, it's about healing. Of course, entertainment is beautiful. It serves us in a wonderful way as well. And I don't want to dismiss that part of, of music, because I think I've had a blast, I've had an absolute blast with, all different genres of music. But I feel that the voice aspect it's really calling people more and more. When I started my journey and offering voice work, there was probably a handful of people offering it, doing this work. And now I see that it's becoming a lot more popular, and people are like, they're waking up to the knowledge that actually we all have access to our voice. And it's just, or people are like, they don't know their voice. I've spoken to friends who have gone through labor without making one sound, because there's so much shame around this, especially as women, like this more guttural quality of our sound. Like as women, we're kind of expected to look a certain way and sound a certain way. And, the more kind of primal aspects of our expression are kind of shunned upon, or, and I'm so passionate about creating these spaces for individuals, men and women, to meet themselves through their voice. For me, it's given me so much. It's given me so much tools and medicine and healing and beauty and community, that I feel so passionate to share it. And I feel passionate to challenge people's beliefs around their expression. And especially when people are like, oh yeah, I can't sing, and it's like, we can. And it's like, if something is out of tune, that's, who says it's out of tune? Like maybe if you're following a particular, scale, but I'm so grateful that I wasn't really paying attention to those parts, you know, of, oh yeah, I'm not really hitting the notes, or I don't have much control over my voice. Like I said, for me, it was more about how it made me feel. And that was really my guide, and that was kind of leading the way for me. It was just the medicine of the voice and how it made me feel and how it helped me to move through a lot of intense emotions. I didn't need to make sense of these emotions. I didn't need to put words to these emotions. You know, I could literally give it a sound, and it would, that resistance or that heaviness could either evaporate or soften. And for me, that was magic. It was like, wow, I can really, I can really support my mental health and my well-being in this way, without, because I was on medication at like 13. I was on antidepressants at the age of 13, and I remember at that age being like, that's really odd. I remember it. I remember being like, wow, like a doctor's literally just giving me medication, and there was nothing else at that point. It was just medication. And then it was at some time later where I ended up in hospital for some time because I tried to end my life with an overdose. So I really honor the medicine of the voice and sound and music. And, it's more than just making pretty sounds. It's really, I think it's hugely important for our health and for our life. I know how much it's changed so many people's lives, even people that, like myself, started this journey with no kind of skills, weren't thinking about it, but it's given them so much. And that's what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate to share that with other people and to make it a possibility for other people, and to allow them to meet themselves and be like, wow, I have this. I walk around with this voice from the moment I came into this, I landed on earth. And, to not know it, to not know that part of ourselves, is a shame, I think.
Mm. Thank you so much for that beautiful response. You touched on so many beautiful themes and topics, and your passion definitely is felt and heard, just in the eloquence and the way that you speak about this topic, your own personal journey, and the way that been able to take these tools and share them with others. It comes from a very pure place from the heart, and that's felt. So thank you for that response and that beautiful sharing. And, there's so much to talk about and of what you just spoke on. And I guess for me, I would love to expand a little bit more on how we all have this voice and how we can all utilize it, because you said something interesting. A lot of times people who are on the medicine path or on some sort of spiritual journey find the voice as a critical point in their healing journey. And it's very common, and it's very true and interesting to think about, because I think that once we start waking up, or once we start opening our eyes and sincerely desiring to heal ourselves, that we require different tools in our toolbox, And so I kind of see sound as a universal tool for everyone, not exclusive, and the way that you spoke about it so eloquently really just resonated so deeply, especially, the part about how we all have this ability to tap in and to utilize it, and that it's not about necessarily even being on key, like you say, but that it's about learning what our voice is, that internal compass. And in that way, I know for me personally, and I think it's pretty universal experience to feel that the voice not only awakens the outer expression, but it does connect us with our internal compass, our intuition, and strengthens our connection with ourselves, like you mentioned, as well as with source. And I think that part of the reason your music speaks so profoundly to so many is because it's coming from a place of true prayer, right? It's an offering, and you feel it. You feel the devotion that you pour into each song when you listen to your music. And so this devotion is something I think all beings are looking to tap into, because feeling this sincerity, feeling this giving of ourselves, this humbling of ourselves and offering of all of ourselves, like you said, it's very vulnerable, but it also fills us up so much as human beings and offers the space for true, authentic connection. And I was looking on your website preparing for this interview, and I came across something that you had written that really was so beautiful, and I loved it. You said that singing is about listening. And this is really beautiful because obviously we think singing or we think music and we automatically think it's an external, right? We're putting something out, and if singing is truly about listening, what does that mean for the process that ensues, you know? And what does that mean for what's available to us in this process of opening to the internal voice, the inner voice, the intuition, and our internal guidance system? So I would love for you to possibly expand on that a little bit more.
Sure.
This episode is brought to you by Magic Fund Amazon. Four Visions Market is proud to be in partnership with Magic Fund, a nonprofit organization that works as a movement for Amazonian growth and indigenous cultures. Magic Fund focuses primarily in the Putumayo region of the Colombian Amazon, spearheading various initiatives that focus on the preservation of indigenous culture, land, and the health of the traditional peoples that live there. Magic Fund recently launched a new campaign that is called Planting Magic. Through this initiative, we are currently fundraising to be able to steward 50 hectares of land in the Colombian Amazon in order to plant and reforest the land with native endangered medicinal plant species. We believe that these sacred plants, if conserved and protected, can bring forth healing for all of humanity in the generations to come. Like many places in the world, the Amazon is under constant threat of encroachment. 17% of the Amazon rainforest has been lost in the last 50 years. An increased interest in the healing benefits of these plants threatens their survival. As these ancestral plants continue to come out of the jungle to be shared with the West, the dire need to plant and replant these medicines becomes more and more apparent. So we invite you to join us in planting magic and leaving a legacy for the future generations so that these medicines continue to accompany humanity for many years to come. Visit Magic Fund Amazon to learn more and to join the movement.
You know, whenever I begin to sing, I don't just automatically open my mouth and I can do that. But I feel, I guess, you know, this is something that I've learned because, you know, my starting point came from an intuitive path. Like I said, I didn't have any kind of musical background or training or anything like that. And for me, what I mean by that, when I say singing is about listening, I guess that's like one element of it. And for me, it's the most important element, because what makes a voice, or, you know, when you talk about how you feel the sincerity in my singing, or, you know, you can feel that also, like, I guess, you know, sometimes when I don't know, you see somebody who's like technically a musical wizard, they're amazing, and they're like doing all the tricks and everything, but you don't feel their spirit so much. It's just more like, I don't know, in the head or in the mind. It's like, it's beautiful, and I don't want to criticize anybody in that space. I'm just sharing about what I've noticed, you know. And then I see somebody who maybe doesn't have the same musical language, and they're maybe a bit more clumsy on their playing, and, you know, whatever. But you feel them, you feel their vulnerability, you feel they're really in the moment of it. And so when I'm talking about singing as listening, or it's about listening, for me, before I even kind of create a sound with my mouth, I'm literally going in. I'm feeling first what's going on inside of me, internally, my inner geography. So I really have to, and it's also not just about listening with your ears, it's listening with your whole body. It's really feeling all the intricate different energies. So and of course there's many layers to that. So you've got the emotional state. You might be feeling really nervous or vulnerable or joyful or sad or whatever. And then you've got the mental state. So there might be some inner dialogue going on. And then you've got the physical state. So you might be feeling a particular physical sensation in the body. And then you've got those three elements. And I'm sure there's more. But that's the first thing I do is I'm literally going inward, and I'm scanning my inner geography, and then I expand my awareness to the space around me. And especially if I'm, playing in ceremony, or if I'm playing to an audience at a show, I'm feeling the energy around me. And I take all of that information and I bring that into the voice, and I sing that through the voice. So it's not like I can easily go into automatic pilot when I sing, but I don't, because I would get bored and it wouldn't feel very alive for me. And so I'm really feeling all those energies and all those different kind of subtleties of what's happening within me and what's happening around me. And I bring that into the voice. So if I feel, I remember, I don't know, having a little argument with Lino one time, and I was just about to get on stage and I was feeling some edginess. So I brought the edginess. To the voice, not in a bad way, just, like I'm just working with energy. That's all I feel like, that's what I really feel like I'm doing. Or if I'm in ceremony and I feel, and I'm scanning the room and I'm watching the space, and I see what is needed for that moment of time, what song to bring, or even how to use the voice, like maybe there's some stuck energy, maybe there's a lot of emotion happening in the room, people are having a lot of catharsis, so I'll bring something to soothe that energy, so it's really, I'm being very mindful of how I use my voice, and every note I use is like an arrow. It's not just a automatic. Of course, there's been moments where I'm just like in automatic pilot, but I would say in general, I'm very specific with how I use my voice, like how I kind of give it shape. Maybe I want to create a certain feeling. And of course, that's very subjective because everybody receives that sound so differently to one another. But for me, that's really what I mean by singing is about listening. It's about listening and bringing humility, like not, yeah, just bring, and for me, that makes it more real. And it's my prayer. That's how I, even if I'm doing like a paid concert, which is not ceremony, I still bring prayer, that quality of prayer into the space, for myself. It's how I stay grounded and to remember where I came from, and to use my voice and my music in a way that serves the people that are receiving it from, in a good way, not from an ego way, you know what I mean? Not from like, hey, look at me. It's just not my style to do that. And again, that's not a judgment to anybody else. That is, like I said, entertainers, they have amazing qualities and that kind, yeah. So that's kind of what I can say about what I mean by that in terms of singing as a listening. We got to deeply listen with our whole being.
Thank you. It's so beautiful to hear you talk about because especially bringing in the plant medicine ceremonies and the way that sound and music is used as a vehicle for healing within the ceremony. I feel like the way that you just shared about it is very enlightening, and a lot of people ask about how the music works within the plant medicine ceremony because a lot of people find themselves really intrigued by the way that the energy seems to shift in a room when music starts or when a different type of song starts playing,
Hmm.
and it's felt, and especially when we're on the medicine and we're already so sensitive and we're so perceptive and tuned in. You can really feel the effects that the weaving of the tapestry through the music plays, and it's so beautiful too because it works with all the different elements of the ceremony, with the different tools or the different healers that are within the ceremony. The music is just a one pillar that is working together with many many different factors and energies that are moving and catalyzing energetic processes for people. And so I feel like that was so beautifully articulated and really makes it digestible too, because people often think, oh, that what you do, it's so challenging, or it's you're so amazing for doing what you're doing. And I think
Hmm.
the way that you are going about your work, it's making it very accessible. And this is so important too, to have work that people can aspire to and people can tap into. And so the journey that you've taken has been one of healing, activating your voice, and then opening that space and making it accessible to more people, which is such service, truly, Nessie. So I just want to thank you so much for the vision that you are holding and the way that you are in service to your community and how many people you are helping to tap into their power, their authentic power, and their authentic self. And
Mm.
it's a great honor to get to have this conversation with you and to be sharing this topic today. So, and on that note, of breakthroughs and expansion, I know that you went through your journey to become a mother 5 years ago now, or something about like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
she's 3.5. She's
she's
three and a
three and a
half
half.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. So 4.5 pregnant, 4.5 years ago or so. How was that with your music, And could you share a little bit about how sound was an ally, as I'm sure it was for you, in bringing your child earthside, and what role it played in your pregnancy journey, as you literally midwifed yourself into becoming a mother and to becoming a new version of yourself, and then how it served as a tool to call her forth and to bring her spirit earthside.
Yeah, I have fond memories actually of being in my room. Like I was heavily pregnant with her at the time, and I think well throughout the whole pregnancy I would have my moments with her where I'd be playing my koshi chime and kind of sing little melodies because I know that from the age I think it's like 14 weeks, your baby can start hearing the mum's voice and the world around them, like muffled sounds, not like clear anything. And I think it's 14 weeks. Anyway, so I took advantage of that and really wanted to kind of, yeah, just sing to her a lot during my pregnancy. And of course, during the birth, not that funnily enough, I don't really remember a huge, I mean, yeah, I remember parts of it. And I remember, utilizing my voice and remembering how important it was to use my voice through the contractions and, that kind of thing as a, you know, as a kind of pain manager in that sense. But yeah, and I guess also as, most importantly, really, is since she's been with us, I sing with her all the time. And I really, really encourage her to use her voice. And she's quite she's a very strong character, which she gets from both me and Lino, my partner. And she's very good at expressing her emotions, which of course, at times it can be really intense, but I also very grateful that she can feel safe enough to tell me how she feels, so she can have these incredible outbursts and meltdowns. And, it's quite a thing to navigate that sometimes. But, she's very good at just expressing to me, like she'll say, "Mummy, I am so angry." And it's beautiful, like I think that's the other thing in terms of our voice. And as a girl, and I remember my childhood, like anger was like really taboo. It's like, no, 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 you've got to be a good girl, you've got to be very nice. And of course, I understand that, but it's like anger became this thing that we were not allowed to express, especially as young girls. And so for me, what's really important is that she can really explore these emotions without any shame, without any fear of being punished, that she can scream, she can shout. Of course I have to guide her. It's not like she can just lose her shit all the time. But I think for me, this is something that I want to kind of encourage in my daughter, is to feel strong in her expression and to feel safe, that she can be held in those really hard moments, because our children at that age, the emotions are so big, and it's hard for them to kind of go through that on their own. So they need that guidance. And so the most important thing for me is she feels safe to express herself. And and it's beautiful. It's actually very endearing when she's like, "Mummy, I'm so angry with you." And I'm like, "Okay." And we talk through it. And I think this is the other element of the voice work for me. It's not just about singing a beautiful song or singing out of tune. It's not even about singing. Sometimes it goes beyond the song. It's like, it's how we can be whole in all of our expression, whether it's singing a song or just being able to express an emotion. So it's really, for me, it's all these different angles of the voice. So I want to be the best teacher for her, so that when she is old enough, and that she can come to me and she can share with me, because I kept so many things away from my parents. Like they didn't know I was so troubled, or they did and they didn't want to acknowledge it, or I don't know. It's like I want that open dialogue. I want her to feel, as a girl, she has a place in the world, and that she doesn't have this expectation from society that she's just got to sit there and look pretty and sound sweet and soft, that she can be fucking wild at times, and that the world can hold her in that space. That for me is like, as a woman, it is so empowering. It's so important that we can offer that to our children, for our, for the boys as well, that they can cry, that they can, that they feel safe enough to express the more sensitive parts of their being, so I don't know if that's really answered your question, but that's what I've come up with.
Oh my God, so good. It was so good and so beautiful, the way to hear the way that it comes full circle for you and your own
Yeah.
journey, and
Yes.
really, this is the legacy you're leaving for your daughter, but then it becomes bigger than that, truly, with sharing this work, because this is a whole new way to raise the next generation, and so
Totally.
to hold that as a prayer for the little ones, and that we are stewarding and caring for, our children, that they can connect with the fullest expression, and like you said, the world can hold that. That is so radical and so powerful. So thank you for speaking to that and bringing that into this conversation, because I
Yeah.
think it's definitely important to talk about, and in parenting and just as a society, so many of us are doing this full circle work, and the voice work is really, like you mentioned at the beginning, it's like we're at a whole new time with a relationship with sound, relationship with voice,
Yeah.
and what is available, what's accessible. So I
And
love
we're
that. And I
really
love.
privileged. We are so
Mm-hmm.
privileged. I feel, we're in a time where, of course we have to go through we have to peel back the layers, but I want to do it for the women and the men that don't have a voice in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at what's happening in Iran. Like, the women are so courageous, and they are, they're risking their lives so that they can be their full selves, and the men are stepping up as well, and they're risking their lives to say, no, enough of this repression. So in that, for me, it's like, we have to help each other in this way. You know what I mean? We have to, if we've got a voice, we've got to use it. There's no more time to shrink and to kind of, I'm there to hold hands with everybody. And not to say that I don't go through my insecurities. Of course, it's not that I've cured myself of being human. Like, I go through my struggles. I go through my moments where I didn't speak my truth, or, I did something that didn't feel in alignment with who I am, So we're just helping one another, like helping one another to rise up and to be a voice for those that don't have a voice, or for those that are suffering, because we need it more than ever for the planet, like being a voice for this earth.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so much yes. So much yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I I would love to ask you to share a little bit about your upcoming programs. I'm sure many people who are listening are interested in working with you and would love to come join you either in person or online. And your
Mm,
Vocal Odyssey program, I know, is a culmination of your life's work up until this point, and it really
yeah.
is the apex of everything we've been discussing in this conversation. So share with us a little bit about what you got going on in 2023,
Oh,
and how people can find you, how people can work with you if they feel inspired after this conversation to continue this journey and activate their voice.
thank you. That's very kind of you. Yes. So I across the year, I hold online Vocal Odyssey journeys, roughly like 4 times a year. I have one coming up on the 4th and 5th of February for women. It's a 2-day journey, and it's online. And then this year, I have 2 physical retreats happening in Greece. The one in April is already sold out. And then I'm doing one in October on a beautiful island called Armagos in Greece. It's where they filmed The Big Blue. And we've been, we would go there yearly. We have done for the last 4 years. And yeah, this will be our 4th year. And this one specifically in October is for women only. It's the first time I'll be doing a physical women only retreat. And we have beautiful guest teachers joining me on that journey as well. So I'm really excited about that. I have like a couple of little 2-hour, 3-hour workshops on my tour. I'm touring Europe this year, and I don't remember the dates of those, but the online workshop, the great thing about the online workshop is that for people that are unsure and, to kind of commit to, say, the retreats, they can get a feel for the work in the online. It's not like such a huge financial risk in the sense of like, right, I'm going to pack up and go and travel to the other side of the world. So it's a nice opportunity to kind of just do it from their home. And, one thing I really learned from the whole pandemic and stuff, because I had a lot of resistance to bring this work online. But of course, we decided to do that after some time because things were not opening up. And I was so surprised how deep the work went, even though it was online. And last year and the year before and the year before that, we gather between 300 and 600 women, a time. And it's so powerful, it's so beautiful, and it gives me so much, when I'm on this journey with all these amazing women. I don't necessarily feel like yes, of course I'm holding that space, but I get so much from it. It's so empowering. It's so beautiful. So yes, I'm doing that on the 4th and 5th of February. I have 2 wonderful guest teacher musicians joining me. I have Alison Davies from Tasmania, and she's a music therapist, songstress, and founder of Music in the Brain. And I have an amazing vocal artist called Victoria Hannah, who's from Israel, and she's like a Orthodox Jew. So it's her, her relationship with her voice, her background, how that's inspired her work. Yeah, so it's incredible, and it's really amazing to invite amazing women on this path, to share their work with all these amazing souls that join us. And I just want to take this opportunity, if I can, if you don't mind, I just want to thank all my teachers that I have learned from in the last years. Liz Cooper from the British Academy of Sound Therapy, Chloe Goodchild from The Naked Voice, Bryony Greenhill. There's so many more teachers that I want to honour because, they have also inspired my journey also on over the years.
Gratitude and thanks to the ones who paved the way for us. And thank you for sharing about these beautiful opportunities. They sound amazing. And we will definitely drop those links in the show notes so that our listeners can take a look and sign up. And I just want to thank you again, Nessi, for this beautiful conversation and for sharing your heart and your presence with us and opening this space together today. It's been lovely to connect with you and to drop in this
you
way.
Too. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's been lovely to share.
And I would love to ask if you would grace us with one song before we close today's conversation.
I would love to. I would be absolutely honored to do that. Okay, give me a moment and I will set my stuff up. It shouldn't take me long, so. lost my confused senses, ancient voices spill their secrets, taking footsteps with our mother, all related, broken hearted. No more darkness with this love. We are related in love. Give me strength in this love. We are related in love. Give me strength in this
From everyone at the Four Visions Market family, we would like to thank you for listening to our podcast. We really hope that you've enjoyed the conversation and gained many new insights on plant medicines, ancestral wisdom, and much more. Please remember to visit our website at www.fourvisionsmarket.com for more resources and information on plant medicine and spiritual tools. And please don't forget to follow us across social media for regular updates on upcoming episodes. We are grateful for your support and look forward to continuing this path with you all. Until next time, take care, stay present, and stay connected.